Long live your turtle here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the Thrive Elevated Basking Loft. This is an above tank basking platform for pet turtles, and we're going to be doing an unboxing, a setup on a 40-gallon and a 75-gallon aquarium, and I'm going to review the basking loft so you can know if it's the right fit for you. Let's get to it. Alright, so right out of the box here, not many parts to deal with, so that's a really convenient thing for those people that really don't like to build everything from the ground up. You basically have your ramp, we have our walls and our kind of roof, and it has a little hinge here with a nice wide cover on it. We also have the part that's going to cover for a 40-gallon tank that the rest of the tank there, because this doesn't cover the entire top of the 40-gallon, just about 2/3 of it, and then this will cover the rest. And then of course you have the bottom of your basking area here, and that's where you're gonna put your ramp and stuff. And we got a couple of little plastic screws here. That's it. So I'm gonna start assembling this, and got our little instruction booklet. Doesn't look too bad. Let's get started. All right, first thing you wanna do is put the ramp in. So basically what you're gonna do is take the ramp, and you're gonna see these slots here, and you're gonna see some slots on the ramp. And so we're gonna put it in so that the ramp is facing that short side. You don't want it facing the other way, then your turtle wouldn't have anywhere to climb to. And you're just gonna put it in those slots, and you're just gonna push down. There's that click. And there you go. The base of your basking area and ramp are that easily installed. Very cool. All right, with your ramp and the bottom basking area ready to go, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it, basically just recess it right in to our walls and cover, but upside down. You see the cover's on the bottom, sitting on top of my table right now. So we're just gonna put it like this. So those flanges are gonna be facing up. Voila. All makes sense as you look at it. And now you'll notice there's these 4 holes on both sides of our wall structure here on those flanges. No holes on the bottom floor structure with the ramp, and that's okay because they actually have these little threaded metal plates, and you're going to use these stability fasteners, and you're just going to start to thread those fasteners through that little plate on the flange here. All right, just those 4 screws hand screwed into those 4 holes, and now you can flip this all over and nothing's gonna fall out. And since it's gonna be sitting on top of your tank anyway, those really just help you hold things in place, but they're not really like structural or anything. So that is super easy to build. That's awesome. They actually gave me 2 extra stability fasteners. And then we have this piece, which is actually all assembled already, and that's gonna go on that open side of our 40-gallon. So speaking of 40-gallon, let's get this thing installed on a 40-gallon I have set up already, and we'll see how everything looks. And maybe even my favorite volunteer will get to swim around and try this out. All right, so our basking loft is now installed in this 40-gallon aquarium. This is an Aqueon. It's a 40-gallon breeder, which is a standard size tank. Thrive actually makes their own 40-gallon tank as well, but it's the same exact size as this Aqueon. So this Thrive product fits on this Aqueon product, which is great. You'll notice with these 40 gallons, I can use this little extension piece that just basically extends over and covers the entire tank. And this product is built for that. But let's take a closer look at the functionality of our basker here. And let's just make sure it's good for a turtle. All right, so one of the most important things that a basking area needs to do for your turtle is it needs to be an adequate basking area. I know, so obvious. But what that means is your turtle is getting the right light. That means they're getting the heat they need to regulate their body temperature, which supports a healthy metabolism and basically just their way of life. So you need that heat to be right. And then second, and you can't forget this, their UVB needs to be adequate. And UVB is basically ultraviolet radiation, beta, and that needs to be at the right level for your type of turtle. Now, turtles range a little bit in the amount of UVB they need, but a general rule of thumb, and of course you need to look this up separately, but they're gonna fall around a Ferguson 3, maybe low 4. And the Ferguson zone measurement is basically an awesome way to categorize different types of reptiles and how much UVB that they require. So for my red ear sliders and the yellow belly, they are in the 3-4 range. So right now I have a mini deep dome lamp right here. And the reason I picked the mini deep dome is because just looking at this basker, it is really shallow. And I measured it, it's only 7 inches tall, which means our lamps are 7 inches from the bottom surface of our basking platform. Now, turtles are 1 to 2 inches in height, so you have to take that into account when you're trying to figure out distances that your light is penetrating to, and that's important for both that heat and UVB that we were talking about. So the first thing I want to talk about is heat. Most turtles are going to be trying to get a basking temperature of around 85 to 95 degrees. That 90 degrees is the sweet spot because you can go up and down and fluctuate from there a little bit and still have a good basking area. If you're starting high and it gets hotter outside, then you're going to be too high. If you're starting low and it gets even cooler, then you're going to be too cold. So I always try to hit that 90 degrees just to make sure that I have a little bit of play, but also giving pretty much the perfect basking temperature for my turtle. Now for context, I have a 50 watt ZoomEd ReptiTough bulb in this side of my mini deep dome. It's 50 watts. That's a halogen lamp, and it's probably the lowest wattage you're going to see in a pet store is that 50 watts. And you're going to be around 7 to 10 inches away for a lamp like that. However, it totally depends what your ambient temperature is in your room. I'm in the garage right now, so my ambient temperature is 59 degrees, which is very cold, obviously, and that's probably not what your house is going to be. And just to read you off the temperature, we're at 83.5 degrees. So we're a little low for a basking temperature, but I have actually done a measurement with this on my tank upstairs already, and that was at almost 100 degrees, and it was 72 degrees in the apartment. So with that information right there, this 50 watt ZoomEd TurtleTough bulb in this mini deep dome with reflectors and a nice dome shape to push everything down, that's too strong for a basking area that's going to be in a 72 degree ambient temperature with this bulb, because I just told you it's about 100 degrees, and I mean during the summer it's probably going to get up to 80 sometimes, and that's going to be well over 100 degrees. Too hot for your turtle, it's going to be uncomfortable and they could hurt themselves. So my only recommendation here, if you need to use a setup, is to get a lower wattage halogen bulb that's probably from more like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or some hardware store. Because a pet store, you're probably gonna have a hard time finding anything under 50 watts. Like we said before, UVB is extremely important for your reptile. It prevents metabolic bone disease, and you need it. Otherwise, your turtle will get sick, and they will most likely die from it. And you absolutely would not want that just because you didn't feel like getting the right bulb for your turtle. It's easy to do once you figure it out. I'm gonna do it with a little more accuracy in this video just to show you how it is. But my general advice is just to follow what the manufacturers say on the box for your type of turtle, what Ferguson zone they're in, and then they'll tell you how far away your lamp should be from your turtle. But right now in my setup, I have a 13 watt compact UVB bulb. Now, 13 watts are the smallest UVB bulb you're going to be able to find. In general turtle keeping, and I think even most reptiles, not the recommended bulb for your reptile. 13 watts is very low wattage, so you need that bulb to be quite close to your turtle. I checked the box out, and the instructions said around 6 to 7 inches for this 13 watt bulb. And so we're there, we're at that 6 to 7 inches. Remember though, your turtle's gonna be a couple inches. Now it could be more like 4 to 5 inches, so that's already a little too close in my mind, but we do have a screen blocking it. So with all those factors, it's kind of hard to figure out what you actually need here, of course, because the screen's gonna block out a certain percentage of the UV. So to measure this, it's gonna be a little funky, but I'm gonna kind of move the whole basker off the tank because it's full of water right now, and I don't really wanna deal with water and electricity and measuring things. So I'm just gonna slide it off. All right, so what I did was I basically took the bottom out because that was another screen, and that's gonna block too much light because there aren't two screens in between it, just this screen up here. And I flipped around the fixture here so that our UVB is the closest light to us, so I can put it right underneath really easily and we can read it. So what we're measuring right now is if you were to just buy the Thrive and get a mini deep dome and put in a 13 watt UVB bulb, this is the measurement that we're gonna get, which is basically falling in that 1-2 range. That's way too low. So I either have an old bulb that's not cutting it, or this is just not an adequate UVB bulb to use for basking like this. So we got that 1.4. I'm gonna show you now what it is if I do it out here, at the same heights really, 2.2. So you got a 0.6 difference between the screen and your not screen. So that's not a great increase either. And that's pretty telling. So definitely be careful if you decide to use that 13-watt bulb in something like this, because clearly that wasn't the best fit. We're not gonna quit here. Let's try 2 different types of UVB bulbs that could be a game changer. All right, the next one we're gonna check is I have a 100-watt Mercury vapor bulb in here. I think this one's by Thrive, which I guess would go along with this Thrive setup. And this is 100 watts, so it's way too strong heat-wise for where it's gonna be located here. But I wanna do a measurement anyway, just to see what we're gonna get for our Ferguson zone. All right, so as expected, we're getting 10.2, just about 5 inches away from our bulb. That's way too high. That's well over a 4. That's not even a desert dweller. So that's too high. Now, how about we just keep going up? And there you have it. So you're about a couple inches, 3 or 4 inches higher. So optimally, we would have to get a lamp stand that holds this 3 or 4 inches higher up off of our screen, because let's see, if we do this same thing again, I'm sorry if you can't see the numbers here, but we're at like 14, let's go 13 if you don't use the screen. So yeah, the screen blocks it, but it's not enough to be a concern. Now this UVB lamp is a linear type, so it's a long bulb, and this is a T5 high output UVB bulb. So this is a high power but kind of low wattage type UVB bulb that gives a really good breadth of area. You can see it spans the entire width of our basker here, which is cool because then the turtle doesn't have to be right under that one lamp like we showed before, or kind of straddling between 2 different lights. This one just really spans a lot. So let me put this to where it should be, and we are reading 6, maybe even 7, 6, 6, 6, 7. So again, we're shooting for that 4. That's a little bit too high, so just putting this directly on top of our cage here, too much light. I do have one more light, and it's actually gonna be one of these linear bulbs, but it's gonna be a 5.0 instead of the 10.0. I'm gonna let it warm up for a second, but this is basically that same linear T5 HO high output bulb, but this is a 5.0 intensity instead of that 10.0. I've warmed it up a little bit. Let's get a measurement of the Ferguson zone with that slightly less intense T5 HO bulb. So here we're getting 4. All right, so assuming I did this all perfectly, measured everything great, and everything warmed up enough, this T5 HO 5.0 bulb in this linear type fashion is perfect Ferguson zone for the Thrive basker. Note that if you don't want to deal with modifying this very much and having to put a fixture that will raise up your lights. I mean, I just measured it here. This lamp is adequate from the Ferguson zone perspective to provide that UVB for your turtle. That's really cool that we were able to find something like that, because getting that heat lamp won't be that bad, because all you have to do is find a slightly lower wattage, like a 40-watt halogen bulb instead of a 50, and you'll probably be golden without adding fixtures or anything to the top of this. Now I want to move on to our cover here, so let's take a step. So our cover here, first thing to see is it has a locking mechanism, which is great. So if you lock it, it's now locked into the inside trim piece, and you can't get this up. So your turtle, if it's really pushing hard, it's not going to be able to get out of here by just pushing it up because it's locked. And you can easily unlock it, and there you go, access. All right, you'll notice in the back here, we actually have this little opening with a little twist off cap. It's funny that there's a cap with probably a 1-inch diameter here, because a turtle would never be able to escape that. So very secure, but pretty unnecessary for a turtle. First thing I notice here is that is not a lot of space. Can we fit a filter in there? And I'm gonna say from a quick assessment is only a few filters will fit in this tiny space. Like you're not gonna use a flue valve, that rib tubing, it'll never fit in there. So what I'm gonna do is I have a Penplex 1200, which would be maybe a little overkill for this tank, but it would be adequate for filtration. And let's see, I have a spray bar here, and I have the intake tube here, and then the extension tubing for that spray bar. Let me install this real quick and let's see if things fit. It looks like it'll be really tight, and I mean, we just gotta try it out here. All right, so it was a little bit forced in the end here, but we got the filtration through that tiny hole that they provide for anything going into your tank. And you could even fit a heater wire, maybe even an air tube to get some air bubbles in your tank right through the extra space that is afforded there. However, this is not gonna work for all of your filters. Like a flue valve has a pretty thick tube. I'm thinking maybe 2 half-inch tubes, and that's gonna be it for you. I know there's also a lot of fixtures that kind of go around the edge and clip onto the trim of the tank. You're probably not gonna be able to use those. So yeah, just be aware that tubing for your filter might not fit through this hole, might need some modification to the filter, or just make sure you get a filter that will work with pretty slim tubing. Looks like 1/2 inch for each your intake and your output to go through that hole. But yeah, functionally, so far so good on this 40-gallon aquarium. I'm gonna get our voluntold, Harold, my red-eared slider. She's my smaller one, so this will work better for a setup like this. So I'm gonna get her in here and we'll just see what she does, and maybe she'll try to climb this ramp here, try to get to that basking area. Let's see how it goes. Well, one thing with the filters being like that, it's pretty much now impossible to use our little thing here. It's gonna actually be easier for me to go backwards, take our lamp off, and open here. So that's a little bit annoying. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna put Harold in the basking area. All right, so this is actually a good time to see how a turtle fits in here. The screen is coarse enough that you can actually see her quite well, which is nice. It's always cool to see your turtle basking. You got tons of space. And I would say Harold's probably, let's see, just a little bit smaller than that opening for that ramp. So she's about 6 inches carapace length and a little narrower, so sometimes you'll have a wider turtle. So yeah, I would say about 6 inches, maybe 7 is gonna be the max turtle size for this topper here. But yeah, so far she's soaking in those heat rays, probably just terrified and doesn't know where she is and doesn't want to jump back into that water in that tiny hole. But let's take a look at how everything fits around. It's actually quite a nice fit. It really blends in with that trim well and doesn't have huge overhangs or anything. Fits really snugly. You can see now my Penplax filtration, how well that fits. Honestly, I would just say get this filter, or at least with this sort of tubing fixture here, because it just perfectly goes the length into this hole. Take a closer look at these little stabilizing screws, and those literally just hold it onto the tank really well because you're just pressing that into the trim, and this is going nowhere. You could smash into this and your tank is gonna have to go with it. But like I said, from just a functional standpoint for this 40-gallon aquarium, this is an awesome product. You're not gonna find pretty much anything like this. There's that Penplax turtle topper, and that's an okay product. It only fits 12-inch wide tanks, but you can buy extensions for that product. This is all screen. You're not gonna melt anything here. Penplax and Thrive are really the only ones to attempt this above tank basking platform on a mass market scale, and it really works well. So you can hear right now a lot, so that is a tough sound because okay. So that was a good demo there that we just saw. She definitely got her nails quite stuck in our floor here because it's all screen and you have these little holes, and she did not really like that. That was tough for her. She got quite stuck and she probably almost lost a nail there. That's not great. And I've actually seen that in reviews before. People have their turtles getting stuck all the time. So that's not a great part of this product. And I'll say it's negative, but I'll also say that's a really easy fix. They basically gave you a great platform to put anything you want here. You could put a tile here, you could put some reptile turf grass or something along those lines. And also I've seen comments on how hard it is to climb that ramp because you can see it has some ridges, but otherwise it's very slippery. It's all rounded. And I'll stick around here for a little bit just for Harold to try to climb it. But I think it might be time to actually move this up to my 75-gallon aquarium to see how it integrates in with a tank that it's not built for, but that 75-gallon tank is the same width. So let's get that up on the 75-gallon aquarium and just see how everything fits. Voila! We have our Thrive basking loft installed on my 75-gallon aquarium. This is a standard Aqueon 75-gallon tank. And that's great because it's also 18.5 inches wide, just like that 40-gallon breeder. So this fits perfectly on this tank. This tank actually has a brace in the middle, but based on the length of this basker, it fits right between the middle brace and the edge of the tank, so you lose no functionality of this basking loft, which is really awesome. Let's take a closer look. All right, so just like that 40-gallon, we basically have a seamless fit on both sides. You can use these little stabilization screws to make this go nowhere, even if you smash into it. And here you can see that brace I was talking about. So it basically goes right to where that brace is, right into the middle of it. And you'll see, you don't see that brace here because everything just lines up well. That ramp is still fully accessible. Right now I have Moses in here. She's about 9 inches carapace length, so she's not probably gonna be able to fit up there without a struggle. And I can't imagine her just trying her life to get up there. So I'm actually gonna switch her out with Harold. And I'm gonna leave this up for a day or two just to see if Harold figures out how to use this so I can review whether that ramp is actually working or not. One thing to note if you are gonna use the 75-gallon aquarium, it's only gonna fit on half the tank. You're not gonna be able to use that small little piece that we had in that 40-gallon aquarium for the rest of the cover here. You're gonna have to either buy a cover, which you can actually buy glass covers for 75-gallon aquariums. They usually come in a pack of 2. You'll just need one. This is my own DIY version of that because I had a couple spare pieces around and I wanted to try one myself. So you can DIY it, you could do some egg crate if you wanted to, but it's definitely not a hit on this basker here that it doesn't cover the other side of the tank. That's so easy for you to do yourself. It's actually kind of nice because you'll be able to fit much bigger filtration tubing if you get something that's more standard for a 75-gallon aquarium. You just have to make sure that this basking loft will fit between whatever brace that tank has and the edge of the tank, and you'll be good to go. It'll fit those 18.5-inch wide standard tanks. Chill out in this tank for a while and hopefully get comfortable enough to try to climb this. I'm gonna try to get it on video. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned. All right, I apologize. I did not catch Harold climbing up into the basking area with my camera. However, she did do it. She was able to get up here and bask. Now, I'll say it was a semi-successful effort to get up here because obviously she got up there, but it was definitely a little bit of effort. It was a little bit slippery for her. It's not the easiest thing for her to get her claws into and pull herself up. Luckily, she's quite big and she's probably the biggest turtle you could have that fits through that ramp slot there, so she can get a little more leverage as she's getting up. But I could see smaller turtles, especially like a hatchling or just a couple of years, definitely having a hard time getting up this without those larger legs and claws. It could be a little difficult. So it works for Harold and it's a little bit of a trouble. I'm gonna take it back down to that 40 and we're gonna sum up the pros and cons of this basker to try and give you an overall insight on whether this is something that you want to build. Now while I'm here, I want to mention this is a Thrive product and I've only seen Thrive in PetSmart, so it's exclusive to PetSmart specifically and you can't get it everywhere and it's sold out a lot, but at least locally in Colorado for me, I see them in pretty much every PetSmart I go to. There's at least one of these Thrive turtle elevated basking lofts. And I've seen them range from about $80 to $100, which for a product like this, that's incredible. Even if you're making your own DIY type basking area, that stuff adds up. So if you're getting an egg crate and you're getting some zip tie and you're getting some reptile carpet and other things for a DIY project to make one of these, which is perfectly fine and I definitely suggest you do it because it's a lot of fun and I actually have a video on it, but that can add up to $50, $60, even $70+. So something like this for only around $80 to $100. It's a really good deal for something that's really hard to find in the stores. There's only 2 products like this. You got your Penplax turtle topper and you have this Thrive elevated basking loft. That's pretty much it for your above tank basking platforms that are commercially available. So not much to choose from, but it's good that at least this is operable to the extent that you could use it and you can modify this so easily to make it a really good product. And speaking of modifying it, I'm gonna do a super easy modification. So stick around to see that video and it'll pretty much wipe away all the cons that we're gonna go over in a second for this elevated basking loft. All right, it's time for my favorite part of a review. It's the summary of the pros and cons to our Thrive elevated basking loft. Now we went over a bunch of things and I just wanna summarize in one coherent many sentences because I ramble all the time and I apologize. Honestly, if you made this far in the video, wow, congrats. But summarize, we'll start with the pros. The pros, This is one of the only mass-produced products out there that fit wide tanks like this 40-gallon breeder, a 75-gallon, some 125s, even a 150. As long as it's got that 18.5-inch width, this turtle loft is going to fit it. And that's awesome because the only other product that sits on top of your tank as a basking area for your turtle is the Penplax Turtle Topper. And while that's an awesome thought for a product, it does miss a lot of points. Check out my review on the Turtle Topper if you're interested in that one. But without buying extra pieces, these adapters you can get, it doesn't fit these wide tanks. And wide tanks are really what you should be getting for your turtle. All turtles, getting those thin 55-gallon, 12-inch tanks. Yeah, it's 55 gallons, but it's super thin, and your turtle is a pancake. It is not a flying sail like a fish. So the fact that it fits a 40-gallon, my 75-gallon as I showed in the video, and it can fit other wide tanks like that is awesome because those can be forever tanks for your turtle. So having a product for your forever tank is awesome because then you don't have to think about buying something else. Now overall, it's lightweight. It's just all metal, but it's mostly screen. So you can easily pick this thing up and move it around. Definitely don't play with it too much because of course it's a little flimsy because it's just thin metal. So definitely be careful if you're trying to move things around a bit. Take your time and don't just smash things onto the ground because it will bend. But nice thing about metal, malleable, you can move it right back without it just breaking on you. Another pro, this thing is super secure on here. You have these little screws that help you just hold it right onto the trim of your tank. This worked for my 75-gallon as well. So this thing is going nowhere. Even if you smash into it, if you have a small child that is just so destructive, will swipe at it, it's not going anywhere. And that's really awesome for a turtle to be really safe. And with that, it actually has this, I have lights on it right now, but it has this little cover here where you get instant access right into your basking area. You could grab your turtle if you actually have a docile turtle that doesn't care about you, or you can surprise them as they try to launch themselves into the ramp area to get back into the water. But all jokes aside, it's cool to be able to get inside your basker easily without taking it off or without doing lots of things. If you want to clean it, if you just want to set things up, or if your turtle just totally ruined whatever decoration system you had in there. Another great thing is with this screen top that it has, you can put lights directly on top of it. We did just go over a long segment on what types of lights will work for it, which is very, very slim. And we'll get to that in the cons. But right now, I'm thinking if you got around a 40-watt halogen bulb for heat, and you use a linear bulb like I have in here, it's a T5 high output 5.0 UVB linear bulb like that, you should be providing that adequate basking light for your turtle. So that's really cool that you could potentially have a great basking area with the right basking light just straight from the store. You don't have to modify things. You don't have to add a stand to elevate lights. Of course, I would recommend you do because there are better, more efficient lights out there that are going to give you a better spread. We'll get to that in the cons. But the fact that you can set up lighting without more modification is pretty much one and only product out there that I think actually does that for turtles, because turtle products have a long way to go, my friend. Now the ramp is long enough. It goes into the water several inches, which gives a good runway for your turtle. It doesn't end really abruptly. So your turtle can get pretty much their entire body onto the ramp to get up into the basking area, which is always a good thing. And with that, this whole basking area in general is quite large. You can see the basking area itself could fit like a 12-inch turtle. No, the ramp could not fit a 12-inch turtle, but the basking area could. It's really large. You could decorate in there too, which is fun. And you can easily make it so your turtle has multiple kind of thermal zones. So if they want to be out of the water but don't want to be roasted by your basking lamp, they could go over to the side a little bit, or they could just get UVB with this setup I have here, over here if they just want to go there. So that ample space is really awesome for a basking area. Now with the 40-gallon, you got this little extension piece because you never want a basker like this to be spanning the entire tank because it's really hard to get into. I mean, you could modify it so it's not. But we're talking about right out of the box here, and having this extra cover means you don't have to DIY a cover yourself and find something that's adequate. You can use this to finish off your 40-gallon and your turtle is secure. They're never getting out of this. Another great pro, the price. I've seen it at 80 bucks, maybe even 90 bucks, but that's an incredible price, guys. I mean, even if you're gonna DIY something like this yourself, you're looking at probably $50 to $70 in your own time and commitment and materials, because you don't just buy things the perfect size. You have to buy things big and cut them down and do all that sort of work. And you have to get little things you don't think about. It all adds up. I know people say that $80 is a lot for a basker, but it simply is not. Just like a filter, this is something you absolutely need to invest in to make your life way easier and make it so that you're not so frustrated that you're no longer taking care of your turtle, because let's be honest, some people will do that because they don't want to keep up with it anymore, so they do the bare minimum. If you just get something that's great like this, you don't have to deal with that anymore. This thing is protected metal. It's not going to just corrode on you. It's going to last a really long time just sitting over a body water like this. And it just has a lot of features that you wouldn't actually think you'd find an $80 product, because this thing is honestly more complicated than a tank. So the fact that it's only $80 is really cool because it's also almost one of a kind. So take that all into account and just try to find something that's cheaper that's going to give you all these. And you're going to have a really hard time doing that. So really cheap, that's a total pro here. And then last but not least, and I've said this in my videos before, so if you've watched my channel, you're probably sick of hearing it, it is so important to optimize your turtle's living space. And that means not wasting space in your tank with internal filters, with giant basking docks, like a floating dock or a pile of rocks or some weird thing that they've come up to sell with stores that isn't this. There's all sorts of things out there I've seen that just does not take advantage of your entire tank, which is crazy to me. Turtles are large and most of them love to swim, so not giving them all the space that their tank can afford just isn't fair to them, in my opinion. So if you have a 40-gallon tank, you better be giving your turtle 40 gallons of water to swim around in. Okay, hatchlings, they don't need all that water yet and they might have a hard time swimming, but for your older turtles, the ones you get from a store, they would love all 40 gallons. Just like a 75-gallon tank that I showed, they want all 75 gallons. Please give it to them. And what optimizes this space for them? It's the above tank basking platforms. Stay away from these. You can only fill your tank up 3/4 maybe, and they just aren't great. This is great. It's one of those products that I've had success with selling on my Etsy store because they're just so much better than what's offered out in the real world. This actually is offered out there, so if you can get one and you need one, take advantage. But of course, let's get to the cons. I can't bow down to this forever. There are several cons I want to go over with you, and number one is going to be the ramp. The ramp is quite hard to climb. It's very slippery, and the ramp just has very curved surfaces for their claws to go into, and I can see a smaller turtle having a lot more trouble kind of climbing up this than my larger turtle. So the fact that she had a hard time, not the best ramp in the world, could use a little bit of modification to make it easier to climb. Now, once your turtle climbs to the top, the next problem I have is the entire basking area surface is all screen. Just like the top, just like the sides we're looking at, it's just a screen. And so you have these little holes in here. And as you saw earlier in the video, Moses got her nail stuck and she kind of freaked out and her leg kind of got skewed and she really kind of just started flailing and eventually it popped out and she got into the water. I thought she was going to lose a nail because she kind of went crazy, and I could see pretty much every turtle having this issue at least at some point, and I could even see that nail coming off. That nail comes off, it's very uncomfortable for your turtle. It could cause an injury and become infected and cause all other sorts of issues. So the fact that that can happen very easily, and it happened literally the first time I put Harold up there, that's a concern because, you know, that's definitely gonna happen again and it could definitely be a problem in the future. All right, next con I would say is with our 40-gallon tanks, if you're gonna use this extra cover here, and I have a hard time complaining about this just because it's cool that they give a cover that fits a 40-gallon tank so well, but you get this little opening here for your filter tubing. Now, I don't know what filter tubing they were thinking would fit in here well. I was able to put the Penplax tubing, I was able to force that in and kind of shimmy it around, but I basically made it so you couldn't take this off anymore because your filtration held everything down. But pretty much, without modifying this, it's kind of useless for adding filtration, especially because you're probably going to be using other things other than a Penplax filter like I had, like a Fluval or something like that. Might not fit, so that's not versatile at all, and you're probably going to have to modify something or not use this at all in order to get adequate filtration into your tank. Because I'm all about canister filters. Internal filters take up space, that's a no. Canister filters have thick tubing, so it's going to be hard to fit them in here. And hang on the backs, you can't even install them. Oh, hate hang on the backs, especially for turtles. So you can't even do it here, so maybe that's a pro. All right, last con I want to go over is the lighting. So we went over a majority of the types of lighting systems you can set up for your tank, whether it's the mini deep dome with the small compact UVB and the heat bulb all in one, or you could do one larger fixture with a Mercury vapor bulb that does both your heat and your UVB, or you could do like I have up here right now. That's a single mini deep dome with a heat bulb and a linear type UVB strip bulb. And like I said before, the current setup is something that would be adequate for your turtle. I just have a T5HO 5.0 UVB bulb, and then I would suggest like a 40-watt halogen bulb from the hardware store. And that's it. That's my pros and cons. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this review of the Thrive Elevated Basking Loft. If you have any questions about it, please leave them in the comments section. Hit that like button if you liked this review, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more reviews on turtle products or awesome DIY projects to optimize your turtle tank so that they live a great life and your life is also a little easier with some of these projects that we do. And remember, stick around for the future video where I'm going to mod the loft here so that it's a lot more functional for turtles with optimized lighting setup and a really easy and safe basking area and ramp. Long live your turtle!